Hmm. Well, that was good. Now, how do I get that down? No, go the other way. Good morning and welcome to Tips and Tricks Thursday at my sewing room. And I'm Sandy Locke Holmes to help you out with a few mysteries today. So thank you very much for joining us. I'm just trying to get everything organized, and I seem to have lost my Facebook picture, but oh, there it is. There it is. All right, everybody. It's kind of blurry on Facebook. Oh, well, we'll just have to be blurry today. Ah, there it is. It's clearing up. Okay, so how is everyone today? I hope you're enjoying this beautiful day. And I see that Ruth is already online. Good morning. Good morning. And welcome to my sewing room on this beautiful day as we do our live Facebook and YouTube today. And of course, it is Tips and Tricks Thursday. So who better to help you out than Sandy Locke Holmes? So greetings, everyone. So I do want to do a quick shout out to some wonderful people who have been leaving comments, saying hi in the store, letting me know that they're listening. That's wonderful. So shout out to, of course, Ruth, who's online, Ruth C, Helen O, Denise, which I didn't get her last name. She was on from the YouTube and I missed Denise's last name, to Vivian H, Eva W, Bozina D, and I hope you had a good birthday, Bozina. To Barbara D and her friend Judy C from Sarnia, Ontario. So out in our Ann S's neighborhood. Also shout out to Carol D. And Carol, I did get your message and I will put you close to a speaker for your class tomorrow. Lana T, Glenda I, Tina B, Carol G, Joanne D, Beth L, and Michelle G. And I want to say a special hi to Carol H, who stopped by to say she was working diligently on her wonderful bird watchers. So fantastic. Thank you so much, you guys, for joining us. And Miss Ann yesterday in her brother's sewing class signed up 2 more people to our YouTube channel. Oh, thanks so much for signing up to our YouTube channel, which is mysewingroom.ca, D-O-T. And we're trying to get to that 10,000 subscriptions. So thank you ever so much. And thank you for joining me today. Okay, before we get started on our topic today, which was how to square up your quilting blocks, I've got a couple of things I want to show you. Our wonderful Dawn, who's hiding in the back of our store at my sewing room, has always been the wonderful kit maker. And I saw this yesterday. She just brought it out for everyone to see. It's called Fableism Waverly Quilt Kit, and this is using the new Fableism fabric with the Waverly pattern. And it is absolutely to die for. I love this. It's gorgeous. And I know it's kind of a fall color, but it is such striking colors that they have in that Fabulism lineup. It's just beautiful. All right, so I just wanted to let you know about that because I think that was fun. And then the other thing I found, because I was searching out, and I thought I found some very interesting mysteries about the store. And I want to show you one. Here it is. It's called the Morse Code Quilt. It is a wonderful class that's coming up in May 7th. It goes from 10:30 to 4:30 that day, and it's $75 for the class. And you look at it and go, I wonder what that says. Well, it's a bit of a mystery, isn't it? Yes. So it's a new class by, I think her name was Patricia. I could be wrong. She's from Vancouver. Anyways, she has this lovely quilt class coming up, and it does using Morse code, and the ones that she's made, they say something. And I think this one was Eat Up. This is a really cute little placemat. Oh, it's Trisha, not Patricia. Trisha is the class teacher, and this one says Eat Up. And you have to use Morse code to make these beautiful quilts. This is a really fun table runner. I love the back of it. The back of it's superb. And the front, of course, is in Morse code and leaves you a message, which is really fun. So I think she teaches you how to put a message into one of your quilts or patterns or table runners. She made a beautiful quilt as well that has a saying on it. I'm going to leave it up to you guys to figure out what it might say, but she probably will share this with you in her class. But look at how beautiful it fits right in. It's this isn't a springtime one, and it does have a message on it. So yeah, I hope you're really good at Morse code. But just think about what you could write on a quilt for someone who might need to have a little bit of a mystery to figure it out. Anyways, that is coming up in May, and I just thought, I've got to share that with you. You'll find this out on the display when you come in to visit. It will be there for you, and maybe you can figure out the Morse code quilt. May 7th. So if you'd like to sign up for that, it is online at our online store at mysewingroom.ca. So you can do it that way, or you can call us at My Sewing Room, 403-252-3711, or you can come in and visit and see these quilts in person. And if it's something that you're interested in, we can get you signed up right here at the store. Okay, so that's a new class coming called the Morse Code Quilts, which is kind of fun. All right, I see that we've got a couple more people signed in. Thank you. Hi, Tina. Hi, Nancy. Hope everything's going well. All right, so, I just wanted to let you know that quilters always have so much fun, right? And I am so glad I found quilting. It's my thread of happiness. Anyways, I have a few more little tidbits for you later, but let's get on to what I really wanted to talk to you about, and that's about squaring up your blocks. Now, on Tuesdays we usually talk about tools and things, but today I want to talk about tools as well. When you're squaring up your blocks, it's always handy to have a square. I think that's why they're named squares. Anyways, this is important that you have one of these. It has a diagonal line on it, and that's what helps us square things up. So if you have either a square or a ruler that has that diagonal line, we can definitely, there it is right there, we can definitely square blocks up. So, and the thing to do with blocks, of course, is to have the ruler that is the right, or the square that is the right size for our job. And that's why they make so many different ones. When we do our quilting first class, they ask us to use the 8.5 square, 8.5 inch square, because that their blocks, I think, end up being 6.5, and so you need something that will square them. So they usually use the 8.5 inch one. There's also a 12.5 inch one, because there's a lot of blocks out there that make 12 inches. Now, if you're going really big, of course, this is a 15-inch one, and I actually use my 15, and I use my 12.5, I think it is, the most. And of course, I do use my smaller ones. And then, wow, look at the size of this one. It's 20.5 inches square. So I'm not sure who makes those big blocks, but baby, those are big blocks. All right, so squares are important. Now, sometimes they're quite expensive, but Omni-Grip makes a value pack, and they put in one of the 6.5 inches, 8.5 inches, and 10.5 inches. So this is a really good one to purchase. It gives you 3-in-1 rulers, and then you have quite a variety of squares that you can use to do squaring up. All right, I'm going to move these out of the way because we're going to actually do some squaring up. So I have my mat, and I brought some of my own rulers from home. As long as it's got the diagonal line on it, you can even use a ruler to do some squaring. I prefer, of course, squares. And as I say, I have one that is 15 inches, one that is 12.5, and this one is 6 inches. So that's where the 6.5-inch ruler comes in handy as well. And for whatever reason, I could not find, when I went hunting, for my 8-inch ruler square. Sorry, my 8-inch square. So I'm not sure what I did with it. Anyways, but you know, if you give a quilter an inch, she thinks she's a ruler. So anyways, I'm not sure where I put it. I have some squares, and we're going to practice squaring up some squares. Now, you may recognize some of these blocks. This is Card Trick. No, it's not. What was this one? Twisted Log Cabin or something. Twisted something. And, of course, the card one that we did. So we're going to use our rotary cutter. We've got our squares. We have a ruler in case. So we don't need anything else, actually, out of our little magic container. All right. So this is the blocks you might remember. This was Card Trick. And of course I made 2 of them, and lo and behold, no, they don't come out to be the right size. So we're going to show you how that we can fix that in just a minute. And then there's other ones that we made, and they're really close, so we just have to do a little trimming to make it. But I'm going to start with a half square triangle so that you can see the angle on the block. So I just took 2 pieces of triangles, I sewed them together, and we're going to do a little squaring. Sometimes I make my blocks a little bigger than what I need, and that way I can trim them down to the size that I want. But I take the little block I made, and you'll see that it's kind of got points hanging out and everything, so it's just a raw block. If I lay it down and center it in my square, it looks like I can make a 3-inch block. So how would I do that? Okay, you see the diagonal line there? I'm going to match it with the diagonal line on my ruler so that I know it's going to be square, and I'm thinking it's going to be a 3-inch. And if I do that, I make sure that there's a little bit of excess all the way around the block. And I'm going to trim 2 sides at a time, and then turn it and trim the other. So I'm using that diagonal, and it got my square, so it should turn out square when I'm done. So I'll cut one side and then the other. And the reason we do a little bit off both sides is because if you take it all off one side, your triangle or your block will look lopsided. So you got to try and even it out so that you take a little bit off each square. Each side of your block. All right, so those were the ones we squared. So now we're going to take our piece, and we're going to find that diagonal again on your block and on your ruler. And we know that we've squared these 2. Okay, so that's those 2. Turn it around, go the other way now. Put the diagonal on the line. So I know those are square. So I'm going to put the 3-inch line across the bottom and down that side, and I just have a little bit to trim off both sides. Okay. I got the tail sticking out of that one. There we are. We have a beautiful 3-inch block, and it's evenly spaced between the two colors. We need a little bit more trimming on that one. Let's see, which side was he on? He was on that side. So center him, find your 3 inches, and do a little trim. I got a little bit wide at that top part, so let's take that up. So now we have a 3-inch block that is squared. So we're using the diagonal, and most blocks will have a diagonal, or they will have edges where we're trying to keep the 1/4 inch seam. All right, so hint. You can make your blocks a little bit bigger and then trim them down each one as you go. Or, as my first quilting teacher taught me, we actually make all of the blocks, measure them carefully, and find which one is the smallest of the blocks. And then we trim to match that. So here's the block. And this was my smallest one. So let's measure what it was. And I think I probably already trimmed it. Not quite. So this would make a perfect 7-inch square. I have put the line through the middle, and I have a little bit of squaring to do to make it perfectly 7 inches. So let's trim one side, then the other. Okay. Now we're going to turn that. And we're going to trim the block. We've got the straight edge along the bottom, and on the left-hand side, we've got our diagonal running through the middle. Beautiful. We know we're going to get a square block. Trim the excess. So this block was just a little bit bigger than 7 inches, and I have a dull rotary blade, don't I? So there he is. He's 7 inches. So if he was the smallest one, then I would take all of these other blocks that I made that are the same, and I'd make them all 7 inches, which means I need to cut off a little bit, you can see on the edges. So take your ruler. There's our straight edge diagonal from corner to corner. Put that on there. Now center it so that you've got a little bit to trim off each side, so there's not a whole bunch off any one side. Okay, that looks about right. Trim the 2 sides. Turn it and use those straight edges that we just finished as the left side and the bottom. Okay, find that center stream again, find 7 inches, match that up. There we go. And then we trim off the excess. Beautiful. All right, so there now we have another 7-inch block, the same as this one, and we're ready to go. All right, now the question that was posed for this week, was, I have a 6 1/4 inch block and all the rest are 6 1/2. Okay, so 2 things. If the 6 1/4 inch block is not something you've embroidered, but something that you've sewn, you can always try and rework the block. And by that I mean, if there is a 1/4 inch seam, you might want to try doing it a 1/4 inch less a thread and remake the block to see how large you can make it. Okay, if not, if you can't rework it, 6 1/4 seems to be where your average block is. You may want to make them all 6 1/4. What I found though too is if the block is kind of wonky, and this sometimes happens, I'll show you on this one. When I lay my ruler on it and I'm looking, I see that if I cut it, I'd have a wonky spot where it's a little less than the other or a little bit more. I can trim that off. Or if it's really under, you can use a little bit of fusible stabilizer, like an interfacing, and make up the little bit of difference that's missing. So if you look, I've got it there, but it's like about a 1/4 inch all the way down. You can use a little bit of fusible interfacing and fuse it on. Try not to stick it on your iron, use your applique sheet. And then you've got a little bit to work with. The other thing is, if you're going to sew these together, you need to make sure you've got a 1/4 inch. If it's only, if it's just under a 1/4 inch, you might be able to sew that 1/4 inch, and still be able to keep it in. The only thing is that if you sew it and it's really light, it will pull away, and you'll see that afterwards. So my thing to do with these guys would be to take these blocks and have a look too, if you've got a wonky one. See if you can keep your point. If you can't keep your point, well, then we have to cut it off. But missing a point here or there probably won't hurt your block much. That's not big enough. Where's the big one? So I look at this and I say to myself, okay, here is a block that is approximately 13 inches all the way around. So I think that one we're going to stay with being 13 inches. It looks like I've already trimmed it. I have one little spot right here where it's a little bit narrower, but it's not so that if I did a 1/4 inch seam, it won't fray away. So I might just leave that. Okay, here's your other block. So I need to look at it and see, do I have 13 inches? Okay, I do have 13 inches on this block as well, a little bit more on some parts. So what I want to do is see if I can find the 1/4 inch. Make sure if I sewed that seam there, it would be a 1/4 inch. So I'm not going to take anything off. Well, there's one little point here. Not going to take too much off this side. I'll take a little bit off here. I might move that up just a tad to make sure I've got the 1/4. And take a little bit off this side, because you can see I have a wonky edge right there. All right, so let's take that off. Oops, boy, that was... Okay, so now we've got two sides that are squared. Let's turn them and put this down. And we're looking for our 13. So we'll aim it for the bottom part we've already done, and the side we already did. And I'm seeing that those points are in at a 1/4 inch. These points are in at a 1/4 inch. That's good. We're going to be a little snug on this one, but I'm not going to worry too much about it, because you know what? If I lose a point, I lose a point. Now, let me just trim that. I think the thing to be, of course, is to be as close to the same sizes as they were. So one being out by a 1/4 inch, you might have to try working it. Either that, or you take your blocks and you square them down by a 1/4 inch. So a couple of options on that. But there's my blocks. I've squared them all up now, and they are the same size, 13 by 13. You'll notice that most of the corner points are good. I'm a little tight up there, but you know what? When we sew them into our quilt or put our sashing on, it will be all right. Sometimes you will not get your 1/4 points to always be perfect, but you do your best. Trim them so that they are looking even and well distributed. But yeah, so what other tips can I tell you? So squaring up is to trim your blocks so they're all really easy and even, easier to put together. We use that 45-degree line in our block to do our trimming. We trim two sides, turn and trim the other two sides. For the wonky blocks, we kind of look at them and say, okay, what is my smallest one? Let's trim them all to that. If you've got a little bit of a wobble, you can put on that fusible interfacing to make it even. But as I say, because it's fusible, it's going to stick out a little bit on your edge. So you want to try and make sure you're using your applique mat so you don't stick it to your iron. And you want that, if it's a little bit short, it might just still be okay to sew as long as you've got most of your 1/4 inch when you go to sew it. It won't pull away and pop or whatever. So yeah, so you're squaring probably to as close to a 1/4 inch on your points, on your blocks, but if you have to sacrifice, you have to sacrifice to keep it the right size. And if you look at these, you really can't tell the difference between the two of them. They'll sew in just fine and everything will be okay. All right, so I'm hoping that helps a little bit with squaring up your blocks, but we use that diagonal on the square. We use a diagonal from corner to corner on our blocks, and we do the best we can. Trim a little bit off each side so they're not all wonky, especially on half square triangles. You want them to be about even. So you have to trim a little bit off each side to keep the square even. And I cheat a little bit because sometimes on these ones I make them bigger than what a block I need, and then I trim it to the size that is required. Okay, so those are my good tips for you for squaring up blocks. I hope it's helpful. If you didn't understand something, or whether I'm at the store, my sewing room, I'm usually here Sunday to Thursdays. And if you want to leave me a note in the comment section, I will look at those. And also you can come and see me and we'll have some fun. All right. I just wanted you to know that quilting is a so rewarding hobby. And also that quilters know how to piece together a good time. And I know that Nancy's listening. We used to go over to her house and do a little sewing. And I think she got a new language lesson, because every time I did something wrong, there'd be new quilting language floating around. But she just laugh and carry on. Anyways, thanks everybody. I just have a few announcements for you. This weekend, well, starting tomorrow, if you're in the jelly roll rug technique class, the doors at the store open at 10. Class starts at 10:30. So that gives you that time to come in and get set up. The class runs till 4 o'clock. It's by Patty B, and it's jelly roll rug technique. We are full, which is so exciting. There are 16 in person and 2 virtual. So that will be a lot of fun. All right, on Saturday, if you're part of the Calgary Sews group, they're here on Saturday from 1 to 3 at the store, My Sewing Room, and they'll be here to tell you all about stuff. Yesterday I mentioned to you that it's Serger week. So our Serger feet for Burnett and Bernina are 20% off. Bernina has all sorts of lovely overlockers, whether they're just regular mechanical or air thread, on sale. There's also things like table. There's also a tote. There's also, well, not to mention the feet. They're all on sale, so it's kind of funny if you're interested in doing any serging. Bernina, Burnett are on sale this month, so that would be cool until the end of April. And if you get your serger, we do have the serger class running on Thursday, April 24th and Friday, April 25th. So right away you get your lesson and away to the races you go and have lots of fun with your new serger. So as I also said, the brother has a stitch, print, and gift Made with Love spring guide sale going on, gift guide, and that's until May 31st. So we've got a lot of nice sewing machines set out if you want to come and see them and play with them. And as always, we have our rummage sale going on. So they're right at the front of the store. You're going to find some really cool products. I've been putting some on 50% off, and Michael this morning started bringing some of the brother things out and put them on 60% off. So I went, ooh, wow. So ongoing rummage sale. So pop in and have a look. One last thing, if you're interested, I also showed on class, Tuesday, the Tuffets. And Anne has a new Tuffet class running. It starts next Tuesday, the 15th, and it goes on Tuesday and Thursday, the 17th. So if you want to build one of those lovely pieces of furniture called a Tuffet, that class is available. So you can sign up online. You can give us a call at the store, or you can come down and look at the Tuffet and pick up all your supplies that you need. That would be fun. And that goes Tuesday and Thursday next week, April 15th and 17th. All right, I sure hope that was helpful about squaring up blocks. If you have any other tips that we can carry on to other people that watch the show, by all means, please leave it in the comments and we'll talk about it. So that's it for me for this week on Facebook and YouTube. Next week, I'll be back for Monday Minute. So I'm hoping that you can join me then. Hi, Lana. You guys have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you next Monday. All right. Thanks, everybody.